Thank you, Catherine, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And may I say, on behalf of the University of Calgary, Elizabeth Cannon, our President and Vice Chancellor, that we are delighted that we find you on the University of Calgary campus for the next 2 days. I did giggle when Catherine talked about the intervention of an election. Imagine those buggers screwing up our agenda, right? It's been an interesting, it's been a fabulous 4 weeks in Alberta. I was going to address this a little later, but when I spoke to Catherine last week in saying, okay, what might I want to say here this morning? I had read, Jeff Braun had sent me, and Alan Northcott had sent me, the responses to questionnaires that the five parties had submitted back to CCVO about their positions on the not-for-profit sector and the value of the sector and the contributions that the sector can make. And I had read them all, and I sort of read the two parties that I thought might likely win the election, the NDPs and the Conservatives and the Wild Rose. And I'd said to her, only in British Columbia. I'm sorry, that I'm mistaken. We're in Alberta here, right? We're in Alberta. And I said to her, I've read the Wild Rose statement and the PCs, and I said to her, if you read them verbatim, word for word, and accept them at face value, and I was one of those doubters last week about the Tory success, if the Wild Rose gets in, this is a perfect agenda for you to go to the government on, to go to the new government on. And there was this chilling silence at the other end of the line. You could hear her breaking into a cold sweat. And I'll come back to the comments that are in that agenda. But I encourage, and that's one of my messages here today, it is the governing party, the one that actually won the election, has set out responses to CCVO's questions. Take them at their face value. Don't question them. Now go to the government and say, the government, not the political party, but the government, Her Majesty's appointed government, and say, we are here to help you implement your promises. And we will give you all the sweat, blood, energy, and time that you need in order to make those promises come true. That's my last message to you today. Let me go back to my first message. It is wonderful that you're on the campus. It is, and I asked Catherine this. You think about a campus like this, or the campus at Mount Royal University, or at SAIT or Bow Valley College or ACAD. This is a gold mine. This is a seam of gold in the northwest corner of the city of Calgary that could be invaluable to the not-for-profit sector. You think of the School of Social Work. You think of community health science. You think of the School for Public Policy. And the kind of work that our professors do here, our researchers, our teachers, our students, our graduate students, that if you have a problem or an issue that needs serious thought, consideration, and hopefully some recommendations and an action plan, I encourage you to come to the University of Calgary. I encourage you to go to Mount Royal University and take advantage of those publicly funded institutions and the seams of gold that exist of resource, of people, of brains, of experience, of good assets. And I encourage you to come here. I did, and talk to them. You can come as a student, too. You're welcome to come as a student. For those of you in the room who are over the age of 65, I'll tell you a quick story. Last year, there was a fellow who came to convocation, and that's the beauty of my job. I get to shake everybody's hand as they cross the stage. This man crossed the stage, and he was there for his 4th and 5th degrees, one in philosophy and one in communication studies. And he had gone back to school to begin his first 3 degrees, and then now for our 2. And he started 24 years ago at the age of 61. This octogenarian who looked like he was 65 walked across the stage, got a standing ovation from the entire convocation. And I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I'll let it out of the bag. Anybody over the age of 65 in this province pays no tuition at our post-secondary institutions. Now, there are not a lot of gray hairs in the room. I see a couple of old friends. But so when you're 65 and I'm no longer the Chancellor, come and submit your chit and take a few free courses. Don't tell the President I told you that, or the Vice President of Finance. But I loved your comment about lifting up your heads and seeing out. The University of Calgary began a strategic planning process about 18 months ago. It culminated in a launch of something called Eyes High, that we set our eyes. The university's motto is, I will lift up my eyes. So our theme is Eyes High, and our objective is to move the University of Calgary to within the top 5 of Canadian universities by the time we're 50 years old in 2016. Depending upon the metric today, we are at 7th or 8th place. So we have one heck of a job, one heck of a race to catch up and get past a whole bunch of other universities, none of whom will be standing still. And it's the same thing for you. As you lift up your eyes, lift up your heads in this next day and a half and have those conversations, you're on a similar track to what the University of Calgary is trying to do, with your eyes set high, and don't retreat from the kind of conversations you're going to have and the kind of ambitions that each of you in the sector have. I was delighted to see a colleague, a friend of mine from university days back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Alan Broadbent is here as one of the many handles he carries is as the chair of the Maitrey Foundation. When we were at Queen's University together some 40-odd years ago, Alan was one of the student leaders on campus and a highly respected gentleman no, he wasn't a gentleman in those days. He was a student on campus in those days. Today, he's a gentleman, and I'm delighted to see him here. One of my friends and colleagues, Alan Northcott, from the Max Bell Foundation, he and his president looped some of us in about 4 years ago to adopt a program similar to what the Maitrey Foundation had run, called the Max Bell Public Policy Training Institute. And we have a tremendous group of faculty members who, over a period of 6 sessions, over now about 6 months, that we put organizations like your own, your leaders in your organization, through a process where you can have a better conversation and make a better set of arguments, or convincing arguments, thoughtful, informed arguments to government about what's right, not only for the sector, but the right initiatives right changes in public policy that any one of your organizations would advocate for. Jeff Braun is a current student. Some of you know Jeff through CCVO. Pam Krause is here, and this is, if you don't know Pam, she is with the Calgary Sexual Health Center, and I think I've got that right, Calgary Sexual Health Center. So get this, she wanted human sexuality education as a required or a critical element in the education curriculum in the province of Alberta. Well, I was the Minister of Education for 4 years, 3 months, 7 days, and 2 hours in the late 80s, early 90s. So I sort of had some idea what Pam was up to. But one part of the course is, and I'm telling you this only, Alan, to raise the awareness of the opportunity for this program that we encourage you to take, and encourage you so much that it's actually at virtually zero cost, other than your organization's time. And it's been proved. I'll let Pam and Jeff talk about it more. But we said one of the elements of the course is that go and find the people who would agree with your position, and find those who will actually argue against it, would disagree with you about the position you're taking. So you know both your allies and your adversaries. Pam comes back to the next course and said, I had a perfect opportunity. I was advocating for human sexuality education. Turns out I was in an elevator in the tallest building in the city of Calgary. Who walks on but 5 Catholic bishops? And we were somewhere between the 40th and the 41st floor, and she said she pressed the emergency stop button and made her pitch. And by the time those poor blokes got off the 50th floor, they were convinced by her arguments because she had attended the Max Bell Public Policy Training Institute. My last comment is around the government agenda, and this is not a partisan event. I admit I'm a genetic progressive conservative. It's just in my DNA, and it's been a wonderful part of my past. And I think that there is much about this government, this new government, that is beneficial to this sector. And I just would read just 2 or 3 lines of the commitments that this now government has made. One, our government supports a productive relationship with the not-for-profit sector, and the creation of the Department of Human Services is a sign of that and a willingness to put in place a new social policy within the provincial government. Believes that the government must actively consult and engage with all stakeholders. Support strategies that build agency capacity in effective workforce utilization, attracting and keeping qualified staff, and ensuring positive outcomes for clients. Support the Alberta Nonprofit Volunteer Sector Initiative, and this is of interest, of course, especially to a former provincial treasurer. Continue to address workforce issues in the not-profit sector over the next 3 years with additional funding for wage increases and other recruitment and retention strategies under this budget, a total funding increase of just shy of $400 million over 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that there are other pieces of music that would be music to your ears, but I hope that you will read those words. You will then connect with members of the legislature on both sides of the House and connect with people in government to say, thank you for making that commitment. Now we are here to help you make it come true. Don't shy away from that. Do it nicely. Thank them as they move along to doing that, but hold their feet to the fire. And there's nothing, and frankly, some of them will actually welcome the help to implement that. And I would encourage you to strike while the iron is hot, and I'd suggest that the iron is hot now. This is a premier who in her first 6 months of office has made a point of trying to implement almost all of the promises she made in her leadership campaign. And now we've just finished an election campaign with similar kinds of promises. Go help them make it happen. Good luck over the next day and a half, and again, a hearty welcome to the University of Calgary.